Hello, I'm Mark Green, Technology Evangelist at Sage. We've got an exciting event today, so let me give you a brief introduction of what we'll be covering and who we'll be hearing from. As we prepare for future uncertainties, finance teams can put in place the right people and technology to be ready for what's ahead. Today we're discussing how many Sage 50 customers find themselves at a critical point where their company is moving forwards, and adopting a new accounting solution is a key step in building the solid foundation upon which to grow in these uncertain times. Ensuring that foundation is easily applied without taking people out of the business for too long is our team of implementation experts. Sage supports more than 2 million customers across the globe, and using that experience, today we're going to discuss the fast start we can give businesses like yours, leaving you more time to charge ahead. So we'll be talking about three main topics to help support your journeys. Number one, what do you get with Fast Start and what don't you get? Number two, how do our 5 stages of Fast Start keep your business on track? Number three, what decisions do you need to make to get started? Now, there'll be ample opportunity to ask questions as there is a Q&A session at the end. Watch out for the chat feature to pop up on your screen, giving you the chance to ask our experts any questions you may have. I'm proud to introduce my colleagues here at Sage. So Laura, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Mark. Hi, my name's Laura Lee, and I've been with Sage for 7 years. I've worked in different departments, spending 4 years on Sage 50 sales, so I'm familiar with the solution, its capabilities, pros and cons, and our customer landscapes. I'm now the account manager for Sage Intacct UK customers, and my end goal is to ensure that they see value from it and are successful on it. Having worked with many customers who've migrated from Sage 50 to Intacct, I know where their pain points were, how Intacct has changed that, and what makes a successful implementation through to a successful customer.
Thank you, Laura. Liam.
Hello, I'm Liam Knight. I work for Sage Intacct Professional Services as part of the Centre of Excellence team. The Centre of Excellence acts as a point of contact for our partners who deliver their own projects, and we offer support and advice on everything from how to set up a new entity to how to build a report on something more bespoke like hotel room occupancy rates. I also deliver implementations directly for customers, which means I'm very hands-on with the product. And this is the part of the role that I enjoy the most. I'm sure everyone will agree that last year has been quite surreal. So the day-to-day interactions with my customers, even if they're revolved around accountancy and dimensions, have brought some welcome normality.
Indeed it has, Liam, indeed it has. So with that then, let's talk about a little bit about what you get and what you don't get. So Liam, could you tell us a bit about Fast Start, how the idea came about and how we're making sure that Sage's Fast Start includes all that customers need?
Yeah, so in my previous roles, I've always worked quite closely with Sage 50 customers, either on technical support, given advice and bug fixes, or on-site, side-by-side with customers, given consultancy-based training. So when I joined Intacct almost a year ago, one of the first tasks I was given was to make the journey from Sage 50 to Intacct quicker and easier. At the same time, that there were also a group of Sage 50 customers who'd already made the move to Intacct, and they were a great reference point to see which parts of the system were proven to be the most valuable. So using that experience and that of the wider team enabled us to have confidence in knowing exactly what our customers wanted. And actually that was quite straightforward. It was just core finance. Once we uncovered the ability to create a pre-configured template that would save us time during an implementation, we've got to work building our own template by merging 2 simple mechanics. So we look to merge Sage 50 functionality and Intacct best practice. The result is an offering that allows customers to take the first step in moving to Intacct, providing that core finance functionality with workflows and reports that mirror Sage 50 where possible.
Excellent. So once they've taken that first step, what are they to get included in the template? And how about those customers who then outgrow what's been switched on, who are looking to use more of Intacct's functionality?
Yeah, so Intacct's core financial subscription gives you everything you'd expect, really. So that would cover you for general ledger, cash management, accounts payable, accounts receivable, purchasing, order entry. So everything that you'd expect from a core finance package is there. And using the pre-configured template means that these modules are already configured and ready to go with Sage 50 in mind. As a result, implementation is much quicker, that there's no sort of discovery phase or discovery documents to complete or prolonged meetings to sit through, as Fast Start's a very much off-the-shelf solution. I'm not going to pretend we've created Sage 50 and Intacct, because that just wouldn't be possible, but we have asked the question at every stage during configuration, what would Sage 50 do? To answer the second part of your question there, Mark, we've also not limited the ability to expand or grow. So features like multi-currency, if it's not turned on already, can be switched on really easily if required. New entities can be added in minutes, and things like workflows can be expanded to contain approvals and much more. There's also an option, once the project's complete, to re-engage with professional services should there be any extra complex requirements or training needs.
Okay, so that's fantastic to cover so many things. Is there any documentation to help customers understand this process?
Yeah, so it's really important that before using something like Fast Start, customers understand exactly what they're going to get and what they don't. And I don't think we have enough time to go through every single point today. So that there are two key documents, and there's a statement of work, and that details the scope of the project, responsibilities, and key tasks at each stage. And there's also a solution definition document, and that lists every single functional requirement that Fast Start meets and how it meets it. So as I said, it's really critical both of those documents are reviewed and agreed to before onboarding. The customers, or Sage 50 customers I've migrated to Intacct so far, have had quite small teams, sometimes with just 1 or 2 members. And as a result, it's been quite difficult to find the time for a full-scale implementation. So Fast Start comes with a clear, detailed project plan, which is also outlined in the statement of work and reviewed during the initial kickoff meeting. And that provides visibility on when we'll need your commitment, and this can really help to sort of alleviate some of the pressure. Those documents combined, so the statement of work, solution definition, and the project plan, should allow you to quickly identify whether Fast Start is a sensible and suitable approach for moving to Intacct. There will be occasions where Fast Start isn't the right fit and a full-scale implementation is more suitable. A good example is if some more advanced modules are in scope, such as contracts or subscriptions. But Fast Start provides a cost-effective 8-week implementation that allows 50 customers to adopt Intacct's core functionality and address today's kind of immediate business challenges.
Well, that's great to hear that if they have something like contracts or subscriptions in their future, they know they're not cutting themselves off. They can adopt that as and when the business grows to that area. Laura, well, what's your experience with Sage 50 customers, and why would you recommend Fast Start?
Well, before we released Fast Start, we noticed that some Sage 50 customers, as Liam said, who had the smaller finance teams and lower resource than larger organisations, they sometimes had difficulty juggling the workload of implementation while also doing their day-to-day jobs. So we quickly identified how we could help, and Fast Start gives a lower cost option for those smaller businesses, or perhaps those that aren't cash rich. And importantly, it also gives a slick, less time-demanding implementation option to help them continue running the business. One Sage 50 customer who had a simple, fast implementation was Contact Engine. So they're a SaaS company who provide communication services and professional services globally. The mission is to be the #1 customer conversation engine. They're a global company with multiple entities in the UK and the US. They're expanding rapidly and into new sectors, and as such, they wanted to future-proof the business. So they felt they'd outgrown Sage 50 and exhausted the workaround options. So Contact Engine are a fantastic example of a Sage 50 customer opting for a simple core solution with multi-currencies to support their global operations. Rob Carter, the CFO, has now got the foundation on which they can build the desired solution as they expand into more territories and take on more complex operations. They've got the potential to add the functionality, such as Liam described there, around contracts or subscriptions. They can add additional workflows and also licenses to automate the business as the needs might evolve. So this simple approach to implementation and streamlined solution, it gave us as an insight into how Fast Start would enable other Sage 50 customers to make a similar move. So experience of customers like Contact Engine and many Sage 50 to Intacct migration customers, plus Sage Professional Services' many years experience in Sage 50 and the wider Sage portfolio, it really gave us the perfect insight into designing Fast Start.
Oh, thanks, Laura. It's great to hear about Contact Engine, and I love how we're taking lessons learned in the field alongside the feedback from a wide range of real customers, making sure that Fast Start meets the exacting requirements of these companies looking to move forwards. So then let's talk a little bit about Sage's 5 stages of Fast Start. Liam, 4 weeks of implementation and 4 weeks testing for go live is an impressively swift project for customers changing systems. And it's great to hear your experience in helping customers. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about this engagement.
Yeah, so you can see probably on screen now that we've got the 5 stages of the project listed. So we'll just run through each stage and give you an idea of what you can expect each step of the way. So in the first stage, we open with engagement. So we'll deliver that project kickoff meeting and project plan so you can see the detail behind each stage. We'll encourage you to sign up to the Learning Centre so you can access the support material and training content there. And then we'll also have a data extraction demo along with a data import template review in that initial first stage.
Excellent.
This would also be the stage where you'd get introduced to your account manager and customer success manager. So we'll be there in the background for consistency and guidance should there be any questions outside of the implementation project before coming into play as a more prominent point of contact towards the completion.
Excellent. So Liam, I can see data extraction and import listed at that stage. Is there not a migration tool to take us straight from 50 to Intacct?
No, so this is quite a common question that we get. And from previous experience using migration tools to take data from Sage 50 to Sage 200 or other systems, what we didn't want to do is bring across all the old records and old rubbish from a prior system. So there isn't a migration tool that's going to do that. What we've done instead is we've created a backup that you can restore in Sage 50. And then there's a send to Excel button against the relevant reports. And that actually takes the data out of Sage 50 in a suitable format for importing into Intacct straight away. So it takes a lot of the stress out of having to extract that data and kind of tidy it up or copy and paste that into the right format because the formatting's already done for you. There will be some fields you might have to populate that just don't exist in Sage 50, but that Sage 50 reports backup takes a lot of time out of that migration. That leads on really to data collection. So in that stage, it's over to the customer to begin populating those templates, cleansing the old records so they don't bring across that rubbish. And there is a period of review in that second stage as well. So we don't just leave the customer alone. There'll be a back and forward where we can make sure those templates are in the right place.
Excellent. Laura, how about some customer feedback?
Yeah, so again, we spoke to customers and having a regular cadence with them did find that some customers who hadn't really implemented a solution such as Intacct weren't really as prepared for the demanding and time-consuming process of data collection. So again, people do assume there's a magical tool that does it automatically. But unfortunately, it's just not that simple. These are two very different systems, and rightly so. They produce very different outcomes. But Liam's worked really hard on this to make the process as easy as possible, and the feedback's been really good.
Yeah. So I see. So you can use the existing Sage 50 chart of accounts or see it as a great opportunity to clean things up and set up well for the future. That's excellent. And so how about the data loading?
Yeah, so just to go back a second there, Mark, on your chart of accounts. We haven't got it listed in data collection, but it is worth just having a quick chat around it. So we do provide a standard Sage 50 chart of accounts that you can choose to adopt. So that's got all of the same reporting categories and groupings that you would get in the Sage 50 demo database. But you can also choose to add to that chart of accounts, or you could even do away with it and give your own chart of accounts. As long as it's 4 digits, then we can get that into the data collection phase. When we move across to data loading, we activate your production environment so that your live environment is there, and we work on finalizing the configuration and loading the data. At the end of that stage, we then spin up a test environment, a non-production environment, for you to carry out all of your training. But there's not a great deal for you to do as a customer in stage 3 because yeah, we solely focus on getting that data loaded.
Fantastic. So as you said, there's little involvement from the customer at this stage. Are there any particular commitments or responsibilities that customers do need to be aware of here?
Yeah, absolutely. So even in data loading, I was going to say that as a customer you could put your feet up, but that's probably not entirely true. We still need you there as a point of contact, so it's nice to know that you would be available if we need to reach out. Maybe an import template doesn't go in correctly, or we need to make some changes, something of that nature. But as far as the responsibilities go on the project, kind of at a higher level, really the second stage of data collection and tidying up those import templates is where a lot of resources would need to be allocated. But then also in training. So training is the next stage of the project, and although we've got it starting in sort of week 4, stage 4, we do encourage customers to take on the training and the support material from that initial stage 1. So as soon as you sign up to the Learning Centre, you can start learning about Sage Intacct. There's an international course now, or fundamentals course that's available. And that's designed to cover a bit more of the UK functionality. So if you can start training and commit to that before we actually get to that stage, that gives you a really good, puts you in a really good position to start the actual training stage itself. And now during training, there will be a commitment we need there to run through some UAT scripts as well, and that there is time for us to provide one-to-one demonstrations, so you can allocate time with professional services for your own business-specific scenarios.
Yeah, and on the Intacct training piece, so it covers all aspects of the solution, from the fundamentals, which we found very important for the full users. There's also specific pathways for the more occasional user. We've been working really hard to get it easy to navigate and relevant for Sage 50 customers. So I've found most customers will use a combination of self-paced training. There are short courses, but also they take advantage of one-to-one training through professional services. So as Liam said, I recommend using the quieter periods to absorb the training. Customers who embrace and complete the training perform much better and have much higher satisfaction than those who see it as a box ticking exercise. Your customer success team is here to support you through the training process, especially continuing after you've completed the implementation. You don't often know what you want to get out of it until you've used it for a while, so training should be an ongoing process.
Completely agree, and it's wonderful to see that there's things to do to really make this transition a success. For those that have not gone through an implementation like this before, perhaps Laura, could you expand on how this user acceptance training or UAT scripts are used?
Yeah, so my experience is quite similar to the normal training. Those customers who use the UAT scripts as they're designed, which is to take the UAT template and then adapt it to their own business specific processes to test the configuration. You're essentially trying to break the system until you know it's definitely going to do what you need. Those are the customers who are most successful.
Excellent. So stage 5, go live. The big day has arrived. but actually it's a fairly smooth day, but we're not disappearing because this, as Sage, and it is a software as a service product. So we're always going to be here supporting you. Liam, tell us a little bit about the go live.
Yeah, that's right. So when we come to go live, that production environment is ready to process in. But it's important to note your training environment is still open at that stage. So we're not going to cut that tool off. You know, we're not going to force you to process straight away in that environment, but it is ready. And there's some extra tasks that we need to carry out in that final stage. So we might load up some additional opening balances or any extra data. If you've got new customers, new suppliers, there's an opportunity to load that in there. And then we provide you support up until your first month end. Then that's where we've got 30 days post go live assistance listed there.
Excellent, excellent. So this 30 days post go live assistance sounds really valuable. How is this broken down, Laura?
During the go live, you'll start to put your training into practice and become confident on using the system, safe with the knowledge of knowing it's not too late to make the tweaks where it's needed. So during this stage, I'll hold a session with the Intacct users to explain how the Intacct support process works. And that could be using the Help Centre or using the 17,000 member strong Intacct community to use in the actual support centre. So we've got a global support team that provides 24/7 support on P1 cases and 24/5 on P2 and P3 cases. Your customer success manager will help you become confident using this and understand how to get the most out of the fantastic service, from logging a case through to telephone support.
Excellent. So now we move on to section 3. What decisions do customers need to take to be prepared correctly to get started easily? So some customers are still at the shall we change stage. Laura, what advice have you got for people feeling the pains or the challenges with their current system?
The most common signs we see with Sage 50 customers who make the move to Intacct would be manual processes and reporting, restriction by an on-premise system, integration with other systems, consolidations and global operations. So my advice, if you're affected by these or similar pain points, would be to quantify the time that the business is losing on these processes. Also think about how reliable the data is that's held outside of the finance system. For example, are you comfortable that the Excel data is up to date, or could it have errors? Who else can use the complicated formulas if you're not available one day? How much time is spent updating those formulas and reports for a board meeting? Once you've got an idea of the time wasted on manual processes, then you can get a picture of the time that can be spent on value add processes and even save the business money by identifying leakage. So our sales team can help you to understand the return on investment that you would get from Intacct.
Oh, I see. So once we've quantified our needs, how can we understand the different offerings to our business from Sage and from others?
Well, we're Sage, champions of UK businesses for nearly 40 years now. Sage Intacct has world-class customer satisfaction scores with 98 out of 100 from customers via G2 crowd surveys. Steve Hare, Sage's CEO, was rated the #1 CEO in the UK during the COVID-19 crisis. We understand our customers and we understand the different industries that you operate in. So if you're unsure what system in the Sage portfolio would be best for you, we'll pop a link in the chat for you to complete, and then one of the team can take the time to discuss all those options with you.
Excellent. So one question we get asked by a lot of people at this stage is, what historical data will they see in their brand new system? What advice have you got for them?
So we've decided to bring across up to 2 years of historical data using fast. So a lot of people will ask, well, the 2 years of data, what is that made up of? And essentially it's trial balances of 2 years worth of net changes. So what that allows us to do in Intacct once we're live is run those prior year reports and run comparisons on the prior year data. What we don't bring across is what we class as detailed data, so that granular level of detail. So you're not going to see individual transactions from customer A, B, and C, but you will be able to run out those management reports and get the comparisons there. Now, the thinking behind that is actually it takes an awful lot of time to prepare that detailed level of data. So it's quite an ask for a customer to take out their nominal activity and prepare it and populate that in the right format to bring into Intacct. So just the net changes are required. Yeah.
Excellent. Laura, what else can we do?
So what we'll do as well is we're going to provide a free of charge read-only access to Sage 50 once you've moved to Intacct. So that means you don't have to worry about transferring over all of your data. You'll still be covered for accessing for things like audits or accessing any historical transactions that you choose not to transfer over.
Okay, so taking on these new projects can be somewhat of a burden on tight budgets. How can Fast Start help with these costs then?
Well, we know that Sage 50 customers can range from startups to international or aiming to go IPO. We know that not everyone has the budget for a full solution overhaul or implementation, and that's why Fast Start is appealing. I think the implementation time has been reduced to about a third of the usual time. Is that right, Liam?
Yeah, so it's probably more than a third. So Fast Start only takes about 35 hours of professional services time, and will require a similar level of effort from the customer as well. You can expect a standard implementation to come in at above and beyond 100 hours. So yeah, there's a lot of time saving there, and that's all due to the sort of fixed nature and the pre-configured templates.
That's fantastic. Excellent. Well, this brings us on to the exciting stage of audience participation with the question and answer session. So as I said at the start, this is your opportunity to ask some questions. So please do put them into the chat should you wish. But we do have some already that have come through. So with that, we will move on to that. And the first one to either of you, if you wish to pick it up, is I don't have the budget for this as cash flow is really tight due to COVID. How will you support us given our situation?
Okay, I'll take that one. So the Fast Start already is designed to make this easier in terms of the costs and the time. And that really relates to the actual implementation itself. In terms of the licensing, so you can choose different modules for things like projects and foreign currencies. So there isn't a specific set cost for it, but you do have preferential pricing plans being a Sage 50 customer. And also, as I mentioned before, we'll give you the free read-only access to Sage 50. So that means that you don't have to pay for the two licenses together, even if you want to still continue accessing Sage 50.
Nice. Excellent. Okay, so let's have a look. Right. Yes, we've got another one. Where have you found that people have struggled?
Want to take that, Liam?
Yeah, I can do. So I think that goes back to when we looked at the methodology really and the timeline for implementation. So really it's the struggle on some of the existing projects has been around allocating those resources and having a clear project plan. So the difficulty has been getting the data in the right time, getting people to commit to these sort of discovery sessions. And with Fast Start, obviously we don't have that, and then we've got the reports backup that makes that migration much quicker. Another area has been around training. So this is probably better to reflect here on the implementations that have worked well, not where they've struggled. So that the implementations that have worked the best have always been the ones where customers have been able to commit time to completing the training, to completing the UAT scripts, to really testing that solution. So I think both points go down to resources again, but that's all been taken into account when we've pulled Fast Start together, given its sort of shortened timeline and clear project plan.
Fabulous. Right, so we've got another one coming in. Thank you, Liam, for that. So we have a question here in the chat. Please, could you explain the nominal and department coding structures available as standard? And how complex can these dimensions be in Fast Start?
Yeah, so the nominal structure, the restriction on the nominal structure is that it can only be 4-digit codes in length. So when we configured the template, that is something that has to be rigid and fixed. Now you can provide us a list of your own nominal codes in whatever order that you want, and they'll be imported, but that restriction is just 4-digit codes. Now, I did mention this a little bit earlier on, that you could actually adopt the Sage 50 standard chart of accounts, and the benefit of doing that is all of the management reports in Intacct will output straight away. Okay. As far as department structures go and dimensions, there are quite a few dimensions that are available, and they're completely flexible. So for departments, there's no sort of restriction on what you can do with those. There's a class dimension there, there's location, so you can report on specific business units rather than just entities. So there's a huge wealth of flexibility there on dimensions.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much indeed. We have more questions coming in. Thank you to everyone that's put in questions in the chat. It is great to be able to provide this feedback directly to you on this webinar today. So we have a question here. What are the costs of moving to Intacct, and is there a charge for holding on to Sage 50 for prior years?
So I've almost answered that previously. So in terms of the costs, so the implementation costs are set, so we can provide those for you based on the hours when you have the sales conversation. In terms of the solution itself, that can be varied because there are a few different modules that you can choose from as part of Fast Start. But as a Sage 50 customer, you will get preferential pricing plans versus the list price. So we know we're making this a really appealing proposition for you because we want to keep customers in the Sage family.
Fabulous, thank you
I'll
very much.
also add to the data as well. So in terms of holding on to Sage 50, the read-only access will give you read-only access, and that will include the prior years as well. So all of the historical data that's on there is going to be accessible free of charge once you move over to Sage Intacct.
Excellent, thank you, Laura. Thank you. So let's pick another one. So I've heard your support and system is quite US focused.
Okay, yeah, that is sometimes a conception. So in terms of the support, we've got support centres in Dublin, India and California, which means you get the 24-hour follow the sun support, but each centre is trained to manage customers from all countries. You can request a specific centre if you prefer, but generally you'll be allocated to the best suited agent based on the time zone that you log the support case in.
Fabulous. So we've got time for one last question. Would entities be set up based on accounting rules in each country if they have UK and US entities?
Okay, so there's probably a need to sort of expand on that question a little bit more in terms of accounting rules. But one point that sort of jumps to mind for me looking at that is sort of legislation and tax requirements. So Fast Start will come with the UK tax solution. So you can submit a VAT return for making tax digital. And at the moment, that's the restriction. So the entities that we set up under Fast Start will just be specific to UK VAT. Now we have got options to add on top additional tax solutions. So we had one not long ago that had Dutch tax included, and depending on the requirements, we can kind of adapt the system to meet your needs. But it's difficult to answer that without kind of having a full conversation. So I'd encourage maybe us to pick up that question with whoever put it into the chat, and we can reach out and expand on that a little bit.
That sounds
it's worth also adding on top of there that these answers are based on Fast Start. So obviously, if someone wanted to go outside of the streamlined Fast Start, you can go into a full implementation project. The full solution has got the US based currencies. You can have US tax, and you can have that full global capability, but not within Fast Start. So to be able to have that streamlined low cost option, it's got to be a pre-confined workflow, and that enables us to be able to offer it at the lower cost.
Excellent. Well, it's a fantastic starting point. Well, Laura, Liam, and everybody that's been attending the webinar, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you for sharing some of your day with us. Thank you very much.